Welcome or welcome back to Crafts by KMW. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it and I hope you will enjoy it. So we are in December and I decided that it's about time I do a Christmas color along. I've done several Halloween color alongs on my channel and I haven't done any Christmas ones. So this is my first one in my first and only Christmas coloring book, Vintage Christmas Greetings, illustrated by Marty Noble. This is a Creative Haven / Dover published coloring book. I actually did a full flip through of this book on the channel, so you can go check that out if you would like to. Really cute book, and it's like $6 on Amazon. So if you like vintage, if you like cute, pretty, if you like Christmas, this would be a great choice for you. So this is the page that I am going to do, and this page was actually requested by a few of my subscribers. I thought it was really interesting that multiple people suggested the same page. So this is a Holly Jolly Christmas with this adorable little girl holding her cat and this pretty basket of holly. It's a very simple page, not a lot going on. Hopefully I can color this within 2 hours. That's my goal. My other color alongs seem to get at 3.5, close to 4 hours. So I'm really hoping to keep this one kind of short. So I'm going to show you the materials that I have to color this page, and then we'll get started. So I am using my Brutfuner 520 pencils today, and I'll show you all the colors when I start actually coloring on the page. I'm going to use my pastel sticks for the background. These are Essel mini pastel sticks. I got these on Amazon. I think they were about $12. I decided to use these instead of my pencils. I have the Stabilo Carbothello pencils, which I've been using pretty regularly. And I decided just to use the pastels because I haven't been using them in a while. And then I also have a variety of gel pens. Most of these are Jelly Rolls by Sakura. There are a couple of other pens in here, some Ohuhu, and I may also use one of these sparkle pens by Spectrum Noir. I actually have a clear one somewhere else on the table, so when we get to that, I may use that. So I am going to start with the words. So I am going to use a Jelly Roll glaze pen. This is in black. I've talked about the Jelly Roll glaze pens before in at least one of my haul videos. These are amazing. If you've never used one before, I absolutely recommend checking these out. They give a raised look and they are so cool. They flow really well. They sell them in packs. Like you can get the white and I believe the clear and the black in, I think, a 2-pack or a 3-pack. And then they have, I think it's a 10-pack of different colors, red, and I think they have 2 different sets of like lighter colors and darker colors. I have the darker set. I don't have the lighter set yet. And then I have a bunch of the black and the clear and the reds. But these are really cool. I use them a lot for wording, for anything that needs to look metal, like a fence or a light post. I use the red in my Alan Robert, The Beauty of Horror books to make the blood, because not only does it look exactly like blood, but it's shiny and has a raised appearance, so it looks like something is actually on the paper. So these are really, really cool. And now I know that using this pen is going to give some shine and a little bit of modernness to this. I kind of decided that I wanted this page not to really have a vintage feel. That would take a little bit longer, and I have some ideas for some of the other pages. I'm hoping to do another one of these pages, at least one more this season, and I will definitely do one of those more vintage looking. But this one I thought I would just keep it kind of regular looking, I guess, and not go the vintage route. I love the ink in these pens. Unlike a lot of other gel pens and a lot of the other Sakura gel pens, these flow really nicely. They're a little on the expensive side. I think the pack of 10 can be up to $30 depending on where you buy it. And some places like Blick.com do sell these pens as singles. So I will get certain colors that I need from them. So I'm gonna hold this up to see if you can tell. So hopefully you can see the shine. I'm not quite sure you can see the kind of 3D-ness, but these pens are really awesome. They're made to actually color on like glass, so you could do glasses or mugs with them. I haven't used them on anything else. I use them solely in my coloring books. So now I'm gonna color her shoes. These are sweet little Mary Janes, and Mary Janes were usually shiny. They were that patent leather. I used to love my Mary Jane shoes. I remember one year I had a pair and my sister threw them in the bathtub and they got all ruined and I couldn't wear them. And I can't remember, it was either a holiday like Christmas or Easter or something. And I really wanted to wear my patent leather Mary Jane shoes, and I couldn't because they were ruined, and it wasn't like we could go to the store. So I had to wear some other shoes, and I was so mad at my sister. So you do need to give this some time to dry. So while that dries, I am going to use the red and do all of the little berries. I think this will be cool because the berries are 3D, and this pen will definitely help them to look 3D. So I hope all of you are having a great winter so far. Where I live, we have already had our first snow. It was not super significant. It was significant at the time, but then the next day it went up to like 50 degrees, so everything was gone. But it was pretty horrible the day it happened. It happened in the morning, so the morning commute was really awful. It took me about an hour and 15 minutes to get to work, which normally takes me about 16 minutes. So it was definitely very stressful. And so right now we're in kind of a mild patch. So I don't think we're scheduled to get snow for a little while again. So that makes me happy. I don't mind the cold because I love wearing sweaters, but And I love the snow. I love the way it looks, but I am totally not fond of driving in it. I'd love to know if you are done with your Christmas shopping yet, how you're doing on that. Me, I don't have a whole lot of gifts to buy, so I am about halfway done. I'm going to do some more, I think, next week and hopefully finish that off. So let me show you the red. So this is a darker red. They actually have a lighter red that's much brighter, but I thought this one would be good for the berries. I don't know if you can see, again, the 3D-ness of them, but hopefully you can see the shine. So now I'm going to do her bow, and I'm doing her bow, the bow in her hair red, her dress red, and then this, I don't know if it's an overcoat or a smock. I'm gonna do that in green. So the red colors I've picked out, again, these are Brut Fooners from the 520 set. I have a lipstick red. This is a pretty classic red, I would say, if you're not using Brut Fooners. This is Tibetan red. I would say this is very close to the Tuscan red in the Prismacolors. And then this is Scarlet Sage. And this is a little bit of a deeper red, but not as deep as the Tibetan red. So I'm gonna start with the lipstick red because that is the lightest color. And I'm just gonna do an all over color of the red. I have not decided what color I want her hair to be yet. Yeah, I actually think I do want that to be bow. Okay. I was kind of looking at it and thinking, oh, that must be hair, but I think I'm gonna make it bow. So the bow is actually tied around her head. So we're gonna make that bow. I don't know if that's what it was intended to be, but that's what I'm gonna do. Sometimes when you're not exactly sure what something is, you just have to pick a color, pick a stance, and just go with it. All right, so I'm just gonna add a quick second layer to this. Now I'm gonna use the darkest color and I'm gonna go around the edges, around the lines. I'm gonna go in here because that's where like the inside of the bow is, so that would look a little bit darker with this color. I don't really have a formula for this, for adding the different colors. I just kind of do what seems good to me. I stick around the lines. I just kind of do what I think looks best. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Just when you add multiple colors, it makes it look more realistic. And now I'm going to use the other one, which is the Scarlet Sage, and just add a little bit more of the darker color, not too much. This is not a very large bow at all. Okay. Now, for my blender, I am actually going to use a Prismacolor colorless blender. Okay, I'm just getting that from a different place. Hopefully. Yep. There. Nope, that is not. Okay, I have one. Okay. I have to sharpen this, so I'm going to pause for a second so you don't have to listen to my sharpening, and I will be right back. Okay, so now I have a nice sharp Prismacolor. I use the Prismacolor colorless blender. I think it is the best one. I have tried Caran d'Ache, and I like it. I think it works. I use it. But to be honest, I just don't think it works as good as the Prismacolor, at least on most papers. So I really enjoy the Prismacolor better. Now this paper is not the highest quality. If you have other Dover Creative Haven coloring books, you know that the paper is not as good as, say, Kirby Roseanne's or Hannah Carlson or the Beauty of Horror books, Rita Berman. They're just not, it's just not. But it is decent paper, and it's relatively flat. It doesn't have a lot of tooth. It has a tiny bit, but it's nice paper for colored pencils. So I'm also now going to take, a lot of times I'll use white, but I am going to use a very light gray. I'm going to use a 10% French gray of my Prismacolor, and I'm just going to lighten up some areas here a little bit. It's very, very subtle, but it just gives a little light. And now I'm going to come in with one of the darker ones again. This is the Tibetan Red, and just add a little bit more darkness in some places. Because when you blend, it does kind of make it more subtle. So just want to put some more back in. All right, and there is our bow. So I'll show this to you up close so you can see the different gradations and etc. a little bit better. You can do a lot with just 3 colors. That's what I usually use unless the area is really big. So I find I can get really nice blending and different colors from different shades, from 3 colors. So now I'm going to do the dress, and the dress has polka dots. I'm basically going to color over the polka dots, and then I'm going to go over them with one of the green gel pens, because coloring around these dots is just going to be a pain. So I am not going to put myself through that, and instead I'm just going to color right over them, and then I can color over them with gel pen. So again, I am using the lipstick red to just put an all over layer of color. If you're curious, I use medium pressure most of the time. I am not one of the colorists that likes to use a million layers. I do not want to take that long with my coloring. I usually color in, 3 layers or up to 5 possibly. Again, it depends on how many colors I'm using and how big the area is. I don't think there's anything wrong with people who like to use a lot of layers, but for me, it just takes too long and I am too impatient for that. So I like to get it done quickly. So here it may seem I'm coloring a little chaotic. I am, because with the different strokes and kind of doing it sort of mishmash, it will allow it to look a little bit more like fabric. And that's the look that I'm going for. So now I'm going to use a Tibetan red, which again is the darkest one. And I'm going to go in near these lines. Around the edges. And in areas that would be a little darker. Like up here, it would be a little darker because of the shadow and because of the jacket. Again, it's not scientific for me anyway. I do what feels right to me. So do you have all of your Christmas decorating done? I'd love to know that. I have my tree up. And that was really fun to decorate. It's a new tree for me. So I really enjoyed that process. And now I'm coming in with the, picked up the wrong one, the Scarlet Sage, and just adding a little bit of that color next to, those darker areas. Just again, to give it a little bit more variation. All right. So now I'm going to blend. I really like decorating for Christmas, so I really go all out. I'm still putting out some things, rearranging some things, but I will be done probably this week. It does take me a little while, but I really enjoy the process. My mom passed away 3 years ago, and she was really, really into Christmas. She had a lot of Christmas decorations, and I wound up getting a lot of her Christmas decor. So I really enjoy putting it up and out. It helps me to remember her, to remember the good times we had at the holidays. And so it's really important to me to do that. So however long it takes, I do it, and am very happy when it's all done. Okay. So I'm just going to come back in with a little bit more of that Tibetan red. And as you can see, it's not putting a whole lot down because I've already blended. And when you blend, you add wax. So the paper is already getting, and probably is already pretty saturated And now I'm going to use the light gray to go over some of these areas that I want to be a little lighter. You can use white. Like I said, I often use white, but today I just decided I would use something a little different. So I decided to use the 10% French gray. It's a little more subtle with the French gray, and I think I like that. So there's the dress. And now I'm going to take a green. So I have several green gel pens. So I think I'm using this one. This is a Sakura Jelly Roll Metallic. I'm not sure exactly what color it is. I don't know if they call it green or if they call it a different color. I'm not sure. So I'm going to go over, it's kind of a bright green. So I'm going to go over each of these little dots. I do want them to stand out. Because the dress is kind of dark. I absolutely love using gel pens. I have some generic sets that are like larger sets. Like I bought a set that has, I think it had 220 in it, and I have another set of 48, and I think another set of 36, and I have my jelly rolls. I absolutely love gel pens. I use them a lot. So here are the little green polka dots. And I like the metallic, they look shiny, so I think that looks really pretty. So I'm quickly going to use a little silver gel pen to do her buckle. This is an Ohuhu. I featured these in a previous haul video not too long ago, and I also did a video on these where I tested them on various supplies, so you can check that out if you'd like. I really like the Ohuhu markers, gel pens, but they do wear out pretty fast. Like this one is almost gone, and I haven't used it that much. It seems like there's the same amount of ink in them as any other gel pen, but it seems to go faster. So I was a little annoyed at that. I'm not sure I would buy them again because they don't seem to last very long. And that's one thing that could be added to my review, that they don't last a very long time. Whereas the jelly rolls, they really do. You get a lot of use out of each jelly roll pen. All right, so I think now I'm gonna go to her coat. So I have 3 colors of green for that. So I have Jelly Bean, which is this one. This is a, I don't know, I would say maybe a regular green or like a grass green. It's kind of light. And then I have Eden, which is a little bit darker. And then the darkest one is Green Briar. I would say this would be more like a forest green. So again, I'm gonna do an all over layer with my lightest color, which is the Jelly Bean. Maybe it's even more akin to like a spring green. I think it's even lighter than grass green. I wanted to make sure that it was a very different color than the holly leaves. So That's part of the reason why I chose this color. I just think it's a really pretty green too. I don't know if it's necessarily Christmassy, but it is pretty. I think I'm gonna color this little area red, like her cuff turns out and it's red. I don't know. Maybe I'll just do a darker green on that. I don't know. I'll think about it. I have a minute or two. I'm just going to go over this again. I'm not going for complete coverage because I'm going to blend, but blending is easier when you have more layers. So if you have at least 2 or 3 layers, it's much easier to blend than if you have just one. Okay. So now I'm using the Greenbrier, which is the darkest one, the more foresty color. I think I am going to do this darker green. So this is my first video in a couple of weeks. I had a disaster happen with my arm that holds my phone above my head, and it had broken. I was using tape to keep the phone in it, and I was able to record several videos with it, but then one day it just got to the point where I just couldn't use it anymore. So I ordered a new one and I had to wait until that came in. So set me back a little bit, but now I have my new one. It's all good. So I can get back to a regular, semi-regular schedule of recording and putting out videos. So now I'm gonna come in with the Eden, and I'm just gonna go inside of all of the darker color. And this helps to connect it to the jelly bean green, which is the first color I used. And I'm just going back over it again real quickly. All right. Now I'm going to blend. So what kinds of coloring projects are you working on now? I'd love to know. I know it's kind of hard to get things done with the holidays and shopping and prepping and all of that, but I don't think we ever stop. And I'm just coming back. I forgot to add the middle color, the Eden, into these darker areas. So I'm just doing that. Okay. So I'm coloring in several books, trying to get my next book finished. I'm doing some Beauty of Horror books. I am coloring in 2 Hannah Carlson books. I'm also planning for Christmas color along, so I did this one. I want to do at least one other page in this book. I also want to do a page in another book that is not even a Christmas book, and just color a regular page with Christmas colors. I was thinking of a Millie Murata book. I have several of her books. Those are all animals, and there are several pages in each of her books that would look really good in Christmas colors, like pages with birds and things. So I am thinking I'm going to do one of those. And then I'm also doing some journaling. I don't do as much journaling as I want to, but I am working on it. And I'm also continuing to make digital products for my Etsy store. And then I am also trying to finish up a few diamond paintings. I have about 5 that are waiting to be done. So I want to get working on those. I'm hoping to use Christmas break. I get some time off during the Christmas holiday. So I'm hoping to use that time to be able to do some diamond paintings and get that done. All right, so I'm just going to come back and add in a little bit more in areas where I feel like things are lacking. I'm going to add some of the darker color back in. Sometimes I will blend right after I do the first color, the base color. I'll blend then, and then I add my other colors in after that. I haven't done that on this page, but I have started to do that a little more, and I find that that works really well too, because the color goes on lighter simply because you've already blended, and so you don't have to be as careful about your application, and then you don't really have to do too much more blending because you've already blended and got that waxy surface on there. And so I'm really liking that. Maybe on my next color along, I'll do it that way so you can kind of see what I do and think about whether you'd like to add that to your repertoire, so to speak, or not. Okay, and now I'm just going to add a little bit of my, oop, that was my blender. Now I'm going to add a little bit of my 10% French gray in. Just to lighten up some of these spots just a little bit. Okay. All right, so there's the coat. I like that. All right, so I'm kind of torn on her socks. I I sort of want them to be a color, but then, you know, vintage years ago, even when I was a little girl, you wore white socks. So I think I am just going to leave her socks white. Hopefully I can leave them white and not have to color them. We'll see how it goes once I do the chalk background. All right, so I'm gonna do her hair now, and I think I am going to use browns. So I have not planned out what browns yet. So I've pulled 3 colors out that I think I might like. So I'm just testing them really quick. Yeah, I think these will work fine. Okay, so I'm starting with butterscotch, which is kind of like a orangish, but it's not darker. It's sort of a light orange. And then I have Adobe, so I would say this is a light brown. And then I have Caramel Cafe, which I think would be more like a brown color. So I'm gonna start with an overall color of the butterscotch. So I want her hair to be brown, basically, but with a little bit of redness to it. My mom had red hair. She was a true Irish redhead. And oftentimes I like to do redheads, red brown on my coloring pages in honor of her. When I was little, I was so upset that I was not a redhead like my mother. And then as I got older, I started dyeing my hair red. And I wore my hair red for many, many years. All right, so now I'm going to add the darkest color in at the top and the bottom of each section. So this is where the darkest part of the hair is. And now I'm going to use the middle color, the Adobe, to come in next to that. These two colors are very similar. I might grab an even darker one to go back over that second color. I don't think there's enough difference between the two of them. So let me see if I can. Yeah, this is much darker. All right, so I just grabbed puce, and even though it's called a name that I traditionally think of or associate with greens, it is not. It is a dark, rich brown. And I'm just adding that on the very tips. Yeah, that definitely gives more contrast. They looked different when I did the test, but then when I put them actually on the paper, they looked very, very similar. All right. Now, when I blend, I'm not going to blend like I typically do because I don't want all three colors to blend together necessarily. I'm going to do it with strokes. So hopefully keeping that difference in between the colors so we get that shine look. And it also gives the look of 3D, you know, that the hair is not flat, that it has some curves in it and a little bit of curl. Okay. All right, so there's her hair for now. And I'm just going to take the puce again, the darkest color, and just go along the strands of the hair. And just add a little bit. I'm not coloring, I'm just tracing over the line. Okay. And now I'm just deepening. I'm not going to come back and do shadows with gray because these areas are so small. So I'm just adding a little bit more of this darker brown to give a little bit more definition. All right, there's the hair. Okay. She is coming together. All right, so now I'm kind of avoiding the cat, and I don't want to do her skin until a little bit later because I don't want to get it all messy. So I'm going to do the holly leaves next. So I chose grasshopper and a Prismacolor, which was in the wrong place. It was in with my Vooners. So this is marine green. So I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to use these two colors. And these are a totally different shade from this. So now I'm just going to take the lighter one, which is the grasshopper, and just color in each leaf. And then I'm going to add darker areas with the marine green. So I tried to pick a shade that was close to what the real holly leaf shade is. Kind of have to stop for a second on that, on some of them, and make sure I'm coloring in the right area. I don't really want to have to erase. It's harder with the darker colors, so. And as you can see, I'm just going over some of them to kind of put a second layer down. So have you been watching any Christmas movies, shows? I am not really into Christmas movies per se. I tend to like the kids Christmas shows, like the ones from years ago, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Santa Claus is Coming to Town. I love those. And I also really like Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. That's another one I really love. I remember watching it with my sister as a kid and just thinking it was so cool how they made those puppets move and the cool things they did with them, like, you know, being on water, and it was just so cool at the time, just groundbreaking. And even though as an adult I look at that a little bit more skeptical now, I mean, when they're walking, the legs are kind of funny and sometimes you can see strings. It's definitely not perfect, but for the time it was amazing, and it is a really, really cute story which conveys the morals and kindness, I think, that we need today and that most of us want to share with and pass to our children, and hope that they emulate those types of qualities. So it is one of my favorites, and I think I've watched it. I started watching it after Thanksgiving. I start watching the Christmas specials after Thanksgiving. So I think I've watched it twice so far. And I will probably watch it several more times during the Christmas holidays. I'd love to know what your favorites are. Let me know in the comments. I also really like watching the SNL sketches for Christmas. Oh, they have some hilarious Christmas sketches. And so if you follow them on YouTube, you can access their playlists, and they have several playlists of Christmas sketches, and sometimes I'll just throw those on TV, and then I'll be doing other things, decorating, coloring, doing things in my house, and it's just great. You can just listen. You don't have to totally watch because you know what's going on. You know what's going on even if you don't see it. And oh my gosh, some of them are so, so funny. Okay. I don't know if I like this hole, so I think I'm just gonna fill this in all green. There's not necessarily an outline for the leaves there, but it just looked kind of funny being open like that. Same thing here. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to use my marine green. And I did not realize that I had a Prismacolor pulled until I showed you the pencil. So I'm just going to do the center line of these, or just a little bit in the center. And then maybe do a little on the edges. I'm not planning on blending these. I'm just going to leave them as is. So unless some of them are really kind of messy and they don't look good, I'm not going to blend them. I'm just going to leave them as is. This is the kind of tedious coloring that I don't actually love. I hate doing these really little, these little areas, these little bits. I like doing the big stuff. I think holly leaves in the real world are pretty one-shaded. They don't have a lot of variation in color. So that's why I'm keeping these pretty simple. All right, there's a few that I am gonna blend just really quickly just to make sure they don't look like a mess. Okay. All right, so before I move on, I am going to take a gray and do some shadows between these leaves. So I'm using steel gray, and I'm just gonna add a little bit of the gray to the outside of some of these leaves, to the outside edge where they overlap, just to give a little 3D-ness and to show that they are not totally flat. They overlap, some are in front of others. I don't go perfect with this. I'm just going on all sides. I don't know anything about like light sources and all of that. I just go on the edges of each of these. I'm not doing it super dark, just light enough so you can tell, or I guess just dark enough so you can tell. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to do the basket. So I'm going to keep the puce, the darkest brown that I used in the hair. And I'm going to use Biscuit for the overall color of the basket. So Biscuit is a light color. It sort of has some orange tones to it too. I want the basket to be light, but not too light. But I want it to be a light colored basket. Some of them are darker, but I want this one to be relatively light. Oop. I missed some green, so there we go. I missed half a leaf. Okay. I don't know how that happened. Okay. Oop. Wrong one. Okay, here we go. All right. And I am going to blend this out on the basket. I am going to blend this color in before I add in that darker brown, because I don't want to have to blend afterwards, because that dark brown will really infiltrate and invade this lighter color, and it will probably make it disappear in some areas. So I'm going to do my blending first and then add the dark brown in, and then I don't have to blend anymore. Okay. All right, just added a little bit more in the handle. All right, so I'm going to take my puce and go along the lines and along the outside edges of the basket. So I'm doing the handle first. I'm just going very lightly along each line, and now I'm just going to do really thin line along the outside. And the inside. This is getting a little dull. I'm just going to sharpen that for a second. Okay. Okay, I'll cover that up with the background, or maybe I'll erase it. I never worry about going outside the lines because I can always cover it up. I try not to erase as much as possible because sometimes erasing can make things even worse. So now I'm just coloring in darker around the leaf edges because that would be where the shadows would be. And of course it would be a little bit darker because the leaves are covering up some of the basket. And then along the bottom. Okay, there's my basket. So that's cute. I like how that came out. It looks pretty realistic. All right, so and now for the cat. So I am going to pause for a minute so I can pull out my colors. I think I want this cat to be grays and blacks. So I just want to pull out the colors so you don't have to wait for me to do that, and I will be back. So the colors I have for the cat, and I'm not sure I'm going to use all of these, but I have them available. So I have shaved chocolate, which is kind of like a brownish black color. Black onyx, which is regular black. Silver gray, which is, I would say, a light powdery gray. This one's called fungi or fungi. I'm not sure how to say that correctly, but this is like a darker gray with a tint of green in it. And then morning dove. And this one is a medium gray. So I would have kind of akin these three to like a 30, 50, and 70% gray in Prismacolors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an all over color of the lightest, which is silver gray. So I'm going to do a layer of that all over this cute little kitten. Now I do not consider myself to be a pro or anything when it comes to fur. So we'll have to see how this turns out. Luckily, it's a very small kitten, a very small area to do. So I'm grateful for that. I can't mess up too large of an area. And these grays are from different tones. I wanted to get some variety in this little kitty. All right, so there's my first layer. I'm gonna come in a bit. Oh, sorry, my hand was there in the way. All right. Oh, I just noticed the shadows. Hang on, I'm gonna turn off my light. I was sharpening and doing some other things with the light on, so. All right, so now I'm going to take the next lightest color, which is the Morning Dove, which is the mid-tone gray. I would say about a 50% gray in Prismacolor grays. And I'm just going to do this very sketchy effect. All right, I think I need to sharpen my pencil a little bit. I think for this, it's going to be important to have a pretty sharp pencil. So I will probably be sharpening them a lot during the coloring of this cat. So I'm just doing hairs. I'm not totally concerned about the direction. I think most of them are going to go this way, kind of following the line of the cat. I'm not really worried about that. On the tail, I'm going to go with the direction of the tail, so up and down. All right. So I want it to look scratchy and furry. So now I'm going to come in with the next tone, which is the fungi. Ooh, just broke my tip. I hate when that happens. If you're wondering what sharpener I am using an AFMAT, electric or battery operated automatic pencil sharpener, and I really, really like it. It stops automatically. It has a pretty big container for all of the shavings. It works pretty well. The only complaint I have about it is that it has just one size of hole, and it accepts regular size pencils. It does not accept any pencils that are larger. So for example, I have the Spectrum Noir pencils, the Color Blend pencils from quite a few years ago. I don't know if they're the exact same now as they used to be, but those are a little bit wider pencil and they don't fit in this sharpener, so I can't use it for those pencils. So that's the only thing, the only criticism I would have of this pencil sharpener. So now I'm going to use the Shaved Chocolate, which is a little bit of a brown black. And this is a really small cat, so I'm using very small strokes. I would probably use much bigger strokes if this were a larger cat. I do apologize if there's any camera motion. I bought this new arm and because my old one broke, and I was really excited about it. And now the more I use it, I'm finding things wrong with it. Like the top part that holds the phone onto the arm is very loose and moves and kind of flops. And I took it apart and tried to fix it, and to no avail. So I'm going to be giving a scathing review on Amazon of this one. I'm not going to take it back. I got rid of all the packaging and all of that. Now I'm using the black, which is the black onyx. I want this to be a black cat. So you could do this with whatever colors you want. If you want it to be a gray cat or a ginger cat or a brown cat, the technique would be the same. I usually tend to do black cats, not all the time, but I do tend to do black cats because I have a black cat. So I do tend to make my cats black or dark gray. But you could do this with any colors that you have. And that you want the cat to be. So I'm going to come around and go one more time with this color, with the black. Again, I am very sorry for the camera shake. I'm trying to vary my strokes a little bit. Make these a little bit shorter. Again, I am not a, I would not say that I am very skilled with this, but I think it does kind of look like fur. So now I'm going to add some white in, and I am using a Prismacolor white. The Prismacolor white is just the best white there is. So I'm just gonna, and it's not gonna show up really dark, but I just want to add just a little bit of white in to give it a little more contrast. All right. So let me bring him or her up. So she looks very furry, and that's the look I was going for. So now I'm going to take the fungi and just add some shadow around where she is touching the coat, the little girl, on the other side of the jacket. There too, okay. And around her arm. trying to do that really carefully so I don't get any gray on her skin. And then I'm doing a little bit around his arm there to show shadow and definition that there in fact is an arm. A little bit here around the ear. And this is going to be really subtle. You could use a darker color if you wanted to. You could use black, but I don't really like using black for shadows because sometimes it just gets too dark. And then it's really hard. Once you make it really dark, it's really hard to get rid of. So I like using a gray. I usually use a mid-tone gray because you can always add more if you need it darker. And you don't end up putting too much on. All right, so that is Kitty. Actually, I'm going to do a little shadow around her where she meets her hair too. I'm going to do a little bit on her face where her face overlaps as well. I'm just going to wait until I do the skin, which is next. So we have a little bit of skin. We have her legs, her hands, and her face. So I chose 3 colors. So the darkest color I chose is called Salmon Pearl Orange. It really, the color, when you see it on the paper, it doesn't really match the name. It's like a sort of light tannish color with a tinge of orange tone in it. And then this one is Honey Peach. I really like the Honey Peach for skin color. And then this is Pumpkin, which again is not really an orange. It's more of a peachy, pinky color with a little bit of an orange tint. I want to give her kind of peachy, pinky looking skin because she is a little girl. So I am going to use the Honey Peach first as the all over color. And then I'm just going to grab a pink and use the pink for her and put a pink on her lips. Probably a very light pink. I'm really glad that all of the surfaces are pretty small on this picture. Again, if there is camera shake, I sincerely apologize. I am trying to make adjustments to eliminate that. All right, so I am actually going to blend that in before I add any contrast colors. Now, a little bit of the ink is coming off when I'm blending, and it's really noticeable with this light color. I've been having trouble with this in my Hannah Carlson books as well. And last night, I sprayed a fixative on a few of the pages in 2 of the books I'm working on by Hannah, Daydreams and Spirit Animals. And they are 2 pages in each book that that I have not colored in or done anything in yet. I'm just adding a little bit more color here because it kind of came out with the blender. And when I color in them again, I'm going to see if the fixative helped to stop the ink from bleeding. It is really annoying to me when you want to color an area like a light yellow, a light pink, light beige, and when you blend, you start getting black in there because the ink is starting to come off. And so I'm hoping that that will work. I will definitely either make a video about it or mention it in another color along if indeed that does work, because to me it ruins the pages and it's really difficult to undo it once it happens. So now I'm coming in with the salmon pearl orange, and I'm just going to do the edges to give a little bit of contrast and to help to make the skin look more 3D and not totally flat. I am just doing this very, very lightly. I don't intend on blending anymore, but I may wind up having to if it's a little bit darker than I want. I am using super, super light pressure. And then I will use a little bit of gray for shadow. Especially where the socks are. Okay. And now I'm going to come in with the pumpkin and just do a little bit next to those areas that I just did. I go right over it, blend it out a little bit. Very, very lightly. And again, I'm going right over the previous color with it. Well, it helps to lighten it a little bit. Give it a little more depth. So there's the skin. And now I'm going to take that same gray I used for the shadow around the cat, and it's Morning Dove. And I'm going to add a little bit of shadow next to the cat where her face is. Again, very light. And then a little bit where her hair is, since her hair is not flat. little bit where the cuff meets the arm or overlaps the arm. And now with the bottom of the dress, between both legs. This one I'm making a little bit wider because between both legs is going to be a little bit more shadow because they're wider apart. And then a little bit of gray at the sock line. And then gray between the two socks. Again, it's going to be thicker because her legs, you want to give the appearance that her legs are a little bit farther apart. I'm going to do a little shadow underneath the cuff of the sock. And here where the sock is kind of bendy. And I'm going to do a little bit of shadow around the shoes, excuse me, shoes, both shoes. Okay, so let me raise this up so you can see more of the whole thing. Okay. Oh, I'm really liking that. So now I'm just gonna grab a pink color. So this is Vanilla Cream. It's a very light pink. And I'm gonna color in her lips. All right. So now we get to the background. So I'm not exactly sure what I want to do with this area here, but I did think of something for this outside rectangle, and we're going to see if it works. So I am going to use my gold lunar paste. I have a video on my channel of me testing these. I got silver lunar paste as well, plus I got white texture paste, and you can check that out on my channel if you want to see that. These two bottles, silver and gold, came together and they were kind of expensive. I want to say it was $20 for the two of them. And I really haven't used it so far, so I want to test it out. I have this stencil that I'm going to use. So there will be a base color, and then I will use the texture paste on this stencil. And so I'll have little circles around. So the base color that I want to use is the red from her dress. So this is the lipstick red. So I'm going to color the entire frame or rectangle around the edge of the main illustration with this lipstick red. I normally do not color large areas like this in a background with colored pencil. I find it very tedious. I find that I can't get the exact look that I want. It's really hard to get it smooth, and even if you blend, you can use Gamsol, but because I'm doing the stencil with the lunar paste over it, I'm not as worried about it. The stenciled design will cover most of it, so I think it will be okay. I am going to blend, definitely. I will definitely blend out, but I don't feel like it has to be as perfect. I would love to know in the comments if you do backgrounds and such with colored pencil and how you get it to look really smooth and finished. Do you do sky with colored pencil? I never have, and I probably never will. I usually use Posca pen, especially for night sky, or chalk pastels, or gelatos, like paint, watercolor, etc. I have never used colored pencils on a large sky, but I would love to know if you do and how that works for you. Let me know in the comments. To be honest, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do as far as around this holly area. I was thinking I could do the stencil like right around the leaves and in these tight areas with a gold gel pen instead. It won't be nearly as 3D or textured, but that way I wouldn't risk messing up my border, my page. So I don't know. I'll have to think of that, and I'll make a decision when I get here. So I did turn the page. It's just easier for me to make sure I get in all the lines and don't color outside the lines. So hopefully that is not too distracting for you. Do you do this? I am constantly turning my pages every which way. My pencil's getting a little dull, so I'm going to have to sharpen in just a minute. I will come in and do another layer. I will go around and do another layer just to make sure I have enough to blend, and I also want it to be deep enough. The gold is definitely going to take center stage, I think, but I want the red to be a nice anchor to it and to complement the gold. So I also have, just while I'm still doing this, I have a bunch of sticky notes ready. I am going to mask off this inner area and probably the outside as well. Although I'm not sure about that, because I could just go over the outside, this area here, with black, and that would be a really nice frame. So I'm not sure if I really care. The only thing is, it will be, if I put gold on top of it, it will be textured. So I think I may have to mask that off to prevent any of the gold getting on there, because it will be raised. It won't be, it'll add texture to it, and I don't think that will be really great even if I go over it like with black Posca or something. All right, I need to sharpen my pencil. So I'm just going to turn the book one more time. So in between finishing this color along, I was planning for the second one. So I'm actually going to do another one in this book. I've already selected the page. And for that page, I wanted to do very vintage colors. I wanted to use vintage colors. So I searched online. There are lots and lots of examples of vintage colors, lots of vintage color charts and palettes that you can use. I was not able to find any for the colored pencil sets that I have. Like there were no lists of all the Prismacolors that are vintage colors. So I think I'm gonna make one, but I will show you all of the colors that I picked out that I think are vintage colors that are the Brutfuners. And I am going to make a list, and I will make that available probably in my Facebook group. So if you'd be interested in having a list of some vintage Brutfuner pencils, some of the colors that are more vintagey, you can check that out on my Facebook group. You would have to join first, but you'll be able to get that. I think I pulled out, I don't know, maybe 20 colors, maybe not that many. Just trying to match them up to a particular chart that I found that I liked. So I'm going to color that page with more vintage colors. This one is not being colored with vintage colors, so to speak. So I'm interested to know if you've used texture paste, if you like it, what kind of texture paste you use. Like this one is, this lunar paste is Ranger. So I think this is a Tim Holtz product. And then I also bought white. That is a different company, I believe. I don't have it on hand right now. I'm not sure what company it is, but what kind of texture paste do you like and use? And if you've never used it, I recommend trying it. It's really fun to work with. It gives you texture, or you can make it really flat and smooth, but it still gives you a little bit of a raised look, which I really like. It adds some dimension to your page, and I'm really hoping that the lunar paste will add some pretty dimension on this page. Because when I was thinking of what to do with this frame, polka dots kind of popped into my head. I love polka dots. Love polka dots. And then I remembered that this stencil, which is relatively new, I haven't even used it on a page yet. I think I featured it in my last haul video or the one before. And I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of polka dotty, but a little more free flowy and interesting. So that's how that came about. Okay, one more turn. I'm almost done. And this layer, I'm not being as exact. I'm just putting another layer of color on. Again, if I was leaving it this color, like if it was just going to be red, I would be taking much more time to make this look really, really nice. But because I'm going to put something over it, I'm not. All right, so there is the red frame. I actually think it looks pretty. I think if you wanted to just leave it a solid color like this, it would look absolutely lovely. So before I blend, I'm going to do shadow around this part of the bow that is overlapping the frame. All right. So I'm actually going to blend off camera so I don't torture you even more. I probably should have colored this whole thing off camera. I'm not sure it was very exciting for you to watch. So I'm going to blend this red and then I will be back and we will do the texture paste. Yay! So I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. So in addition to blending the red, I took the liberty of blocking off all of the areas I do not want to get the texture paste on. I used these small sticky notes. I just happen to have a lot of them, but you could use any size. And these were actually really nice because I was able to get into smaller areas. So I covered this little portion of her bow that extends onto the frame. I covered as many of the leaves and as much of that part as I could. I'm just hoping I can kind of get around these other ones. So we'll see what happens. I'm just going to take my time and try to do that very carefully. So I am going to place my stencil and let me see if I have some tape. Oh, I actually do. All right, so I have some masking tape and I'm just gonna tape it onto the blue so I don't get that on my coloring page at all. Oh, I just love how that looks. It's so shiny and pretty. Looks almost good enough to eat. So because I'm doing kind of a small area and I want to make sure that I can control it, I'm going to brush this on. And I don't actually mind if I get some brush strokes in there. I think it will still give it texture and I think it'll still be pretty cool. So I have just these little brushes. I bought them in a pack. As you can see, they were $12.50. I bought them from my local art store, and there's 4 little brushes in here, and you can basically use them for anything. So I am using them for texture paste. This is the first time I've ever used these brushes. So I've just got a little scoop of that lovely gold shiny lusciousness. And we are going to brush it on. So again, I have never done this before. I haven't used this stencil before. I have not really used the texture paste on a coloring page before or with a stencil before, other than just to do a test. Oop, I got some on my nail. So this is a definite experiment. I must say, it's kind of hard for me to leave it kind of clumpy. I want to like spread it out, but it's not supposed to be spread out. It's supposed to be clumpy and 3D. So I have to get over that. I think the ideal way to apply this would probably be a palette knife, but I cannot find mine right now. I have a palette knife, but I just don't know where it is. So I just decided to use a brush, but I think that would be the best way to do this. But hopefully it will come out good. We shall see. Okay, I'm just trying to go back and make sure I got everything. I got all of the areas that I wanted to get. Okay, so I'm gonna let this dry a few minutes and then I will reveal what is below. Okay, so I learned something. I learned that texture paste does not look great with this stencil. So when I lifted it up, it was just disconnected blobs and you couldn't really tell what the design was. So I had to make a decision because I didn't want the texture paste to dry. So I scraped off as much as I could and I used a little bit of paper towel with water because I already had some wax on the area because of the pencil. So I'm going to keep reworking this, and I'm probably going to have to put another coat of the pencil on top. And then I am going to decide what I'm going to do next. I think I still want to use that stencil, but I think I'm going to need to use ink. So it will just be a matter of choosing an ink color to do it with. So I may have a gold, I'm not sure. So I'm going to switch gears and finish this page. But I did want to show you kind of the results and explain what I did because, you know, art isn't perfect. Sometimes we mess up. Sometimes we try something and it doesn't come out as good as you thought it would. I definitely probably should have tried, actually definitely and probably don't go together. I definitely should have tested it first to see how the texture paste would work with this stencil, and I didn't do that, so that's my own fault. You live and you learn. So I am going to take another break, kind of get this back to where I can do something with it, and then I am going to pull out my ink and work with that. So I will be back again. Okay, so here I am, hopefully back for the last time before I finish this page. So I recolored. I still have a little bit of the gold showing, but I'm actually okay with that because I tested using ink with that stencil. So let me show you my tester page. Oh, I think it's actually in the front. Okay, so here's my little tester, and the stencil just kind of looks the same way. It's just not, it's not looking the way I want it to, basically, even with the ink. So I grabbed another stencil. I did another tester here with the texture paste, and I like that much better. So I am going to texture paste it again with a different stencil. This is just a polka dot stencil. This is a Stencil 1 stencil. I don't know if you can see that. Their name is actually stenciled as well. So this is a Stencil 1 stencil that I believe I got from Amazon. So I am going to use the texture paste with this stencil, and it looks much better. So, and I am, instead of a brush, I am using my silicone brush. I mean, it is considered a brush, but it doesn't have any bristles. I love, love, love these brushes because they work really nicely as palette knives because they don't absorb anything. And it's really nice with texture paste because when you use texture paste, you don't want to give up any because it is very expensive. So this brush will not soak up any of the texture paste. I'll be able to scrape most of it back in the jar and have very, very little waste. And that makes me happy. So here I go. I didn't really get too much on it that first time for my test, but now I'm gonna really put it on there. It is really fun working with texture paste. It's very smooth, very nice to work with. It spreads easily. I'm just kind of working it all different ways to try and get the texture. My cat Finn just jumped somewhere where he's not supposed to be. And just made something fall. Oh, it's so fun having a cat. Do any of you have problems if you have a cat? Does your cat jump places where you don't want them to go? I find that my cat, Finn, will do that when he wants my attention, when he's mad that I am not giving him all of my attention. All right, so I have this little section done. So I'm gonna lift that up. Oh, much better. That's pretty cool. I like that. So now I'm gonna just move the stencil down and continue. I'm just gonna be very careful up here not to smush it or anything, too much because I've already stenciled that part. There is part of a leaf there that I think I'm going, that I just went right over, but at this point, to be honest, I really don't care. I think it'll be fine. One thing I would suggest is to make sure you have plenty of paper towel near you. All right, so now I'm gonna carefully go over this area where there's some more leaves. I'm gonna try to work around the leaves as best I can. This is difficult, and I don't know if I'm doing it perfectly, but okay, I think I did cover some of the leaves there. I can scrape a little bit of that off. All right, so now I'm going to continue. All right, I'm just going to add a little bit down here. Okay. And a little half there. Okay, just trying to fill in. And now I'm going to go ahead and now the stencil is getting pretty covered with the texture paste, so it's getting a little goopy. Again, that's why I would say definitely have paper towel handy. I keep looking over at what Finn made fall. It's this neat little snowman I have, and I just hope he did not crack. Now you could let this dry in between, and with the other stencil, I was going to do that, but I think with this stencil, because the pattern is so easy to figure out and continue and replicate, that's why I am just rolling right ahead. Okay, I'm not sure what happened there. All right. So it's pretty easy to line up this stencil. So I'm just pulling it up and not really giving it dry time. If you're hearing noise, that is Finn again. He is pushing things off of my table. I'm hoping he won't come over here because I don't want him to get covered in texture paste. So I am very much, oh, he just fell off the table now. Oh my gosh. He's such a nut. Okay. I guess that's what curiosity gets you, Finn. almost done. And again, I was pretty careful to go back, forth, all different ways on this to make sure that I'm filling in all of the dot area so the texture paste gets everywhere. So I don't have any kind of half-filled circles. Now you're probably thinking that this looks like an absolute mess, and right now it definitely does, but it will not. It will not once I get all of the sticky notes off. It should look really good. Okay. There's a little bit of sort of double circle here. I can fix that. So here is the stencil, the texture pasted stencil. And I'm gonna let this dry, and then I will peel off all of the sticky notes, and hopefully we will have a really pretty border on this. So I am going to stop filming one last time. I actually thought the last time was going to be the last time, but I forgot about letting it dry and before I peel off the sticky notes. So I will be right back and we will continue and finish this page. Okay, so I started taking off some of the paper and it's pretty satisfying. So I decided to finish doing it on camera. It's pretty cool seeing the paper, the sticky notes come off. And now there's a few little mistakes. There's a mistake right there, a little mistake right there. I am going to fix those with white Posca pen or gel pen. But for the most part, it's looking really nice. Took a little longer and a little bit more blood, sweat, and tears than I thought, but I think this is still going to look really nice. So now I'm going to do the inside. And even though it was a pain, it was fun to do. I haven't really used texture paste on a page before. I haven't used it on a page before. So this was really fun. And an enjoyable process. I guess making a mess is kind of fun. So here's what we have. Let me go up a little bit, zoom out a little bit so you can get the full effect. So I really like how that turned out. I really like the effect of the gold on the red. So it's kind of shiny. I think it adds a nice texture and look to the page. There are little issues with, or some issues with the leaves down here. I think I'm gonna give it a day or two and try to scrape some of that off. It's not like a huge issue. It actually turned out better than I thought around the leaves. So I am okay with it. So now my only task will be to cover up the mistakes like here with white Posca pen, but that I am going to wait until at least tomorrow to make sure that the texture paste has time to cure, because if it's not totally dry, it will just mix with the white paint and make an even bigger mess. So I don't want that. So I'm going to just leave it for now and fix that, the very last thing. So now we're going to finish the page, mostly anyway. I am definitely going to color this back area black, but I will not do that on camera. I will do that off camera. I'll use a black Posca pen most likely, and I think that will really set off the red and gold frame and really make a nice backdrop for the entire picture. But I am going to do this center section now. And I really went back and forth with colors. At first I thought I would use a beigey, light pinky, peachy color. But everything I tried, I don't know, I just really didn't like it. I felt like it blended too much with the legs. And then I kind of went more yellowy, and I don't know, it just didn't do anything for me. I just kind of felt like it wasn't right. So then I decided on a very light blue. So I went to my chalk pastels and I found this color. So it is a very light sky blue. And I'm going to use this, and I grabbed a clean, fresh applicator. I use eyeshadow applicators. I get a big bag of like 300 on Amazon for like $3. And I am just going to apply that. So I'm just going to rub this on. I'm not going to get in every little crevice here with the letters, because I can take the applicator and go inside some of these tighter spots. Once the applicator has some chalk on it, I'll be able to rub that on in those other places without having chalk down first. Oh, and there's a couple little areas I want to go over with white Posca. All right, so it's actually pretty dry. All right. And then there's another little mess right there. And I think that's it. Just a little bit right there. All right, so while that's drying, I will spread this out. Some of those mistakes I may have to go over again, or maybe a couple of times. And I may have to do a few touch-ups with the chalk, but okay, I'm just going back over it. I keep trying to take that dust and smush it into the paper. It helps saturate the color or give you more saturated color with your chalk. It also helps reduce the dust you have to get rid of. So I really try to work that into the paper. Some papers are more absorbent than others. Just depends. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to go over those areas some more times, but I will do that. Okay. Again, I'm not going to go right into all those little spaces in between with all the leaves. I will get that with the applicator. I love working with chalk pastels. I love this process of spreading them out, pushing the chalk in the paper, spreading it out, getting a nice smooth finish. When I use multiple colors, I really like blending them together. Chalk pastels are so easy to blend together, and they give you really seamless blends. I think better and easier than you can get with colored pencil. Ah, it is snowing outside. Our second snow of the year. Or of the season, I guess. Okay, I'm just going back over this again to just keep pushing the chalk in. Get a nice smooth surface. I like that. However, I think what I want to do is add a little bit of a darker blue just around the edges. So I'm just going to take my applicator and rub it into this blue right here. I'm just going to rub it right on there. I don't want it to be too heavy. I'm not looking for dark marks, dark heavy marks. I just want to add a little bit of definition, just a little bit of a different color along the edges. And I want to add a little bit of shadow around her. So again, I am going to use my chalk pastels, and I have a light gray. And I'm just smushing or rubbing some of the gray onto a scrap piece of paper. And then I'm going to rub my applicator in it, and that will get more chalk on. So just a couple different ways you can use the chalk without having to apply it right on the paper or scraping the dust onto the paper. So you can rub your applicator across the chalk, or you can rub it on paper and then dip your applicator in that way. So I'm just gonna go outside her body. It's very subtle. It may even be hard to see on camera, but that's what I want. And if you wanted it darker, you could definitely use pencil and come in, or use a darker color. I used a pretty light gray. And then I'm going to do the same around the leaves. I'm not being as precise around the leaves. Just going back over everything just to make sure it's all blended. Okay. So let me show you up close. Again, it's very, very subtle. And then the edges, the darker blue along the edges, again, very subtle. But when you look at the picture as a whole, it does give it some dimension. So let me raise this up for you so you can see the whole page at once. So here is the finished page. I really, really like how it turned out. Again, I'll fix some of these mistakes, and I do have to do black around the outside, but it is finished now. It was a lot of fun to do, even though there was a little bit of a mishap with the border. I love the way it turned out. I love the polka dots. I love the shine. It adds a little bit of pizzazz and pop to what is a pretty simple page. So I really, really like this page. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you think of the page, if you have this book and if you've colored this page and how you did it and what you did with the page. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. It really helps me out. And if you're not subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you would become a subscriber. You will get access to all of my previous videos, plus any new content that I upload, which I try to do regularly, at least weekly or bi-weekly. And you will be helping me out. I am over halfway to monetization, so I am working really hard to make a good channel that you will enjoy so I can continue to grow. As always, if you have any suggestions for color alongs or any videos that you would like to see me do, please put them in the comments. I read every comment and answer every comment, and I love getting ideas and knowing what you would like to see on the channel. So once again, I thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day and, of course, a very crafty day.